Hello class, welcome to another series of presentations on information securities and management. Today we'll talk about information security controls. Information security control is a very important subject to the field of information security. This is because it gives us solutions of protecting information security. Information security is not only about discovering vulnerabilities to information systems, it is also concerned about providing solutions to the vulnerabilities so discovered. In providing solutions, we have to know information security controls. At the end of this course, as a graduate of BIM 312 at TUDARCO, I expect you to be able to develop something called enterprise security architecture. We know every organization or every country has got its own enterprise security architecture. This has to be designed. Who will do design enterprise security architecture? It's some of you who will successfully complete this course of BIM 312. An enterprise security architecture actually comprises of all the security solutions, security programs which are being undertaken by a particular organization. And at the national level, we have something we call the national cybersecurity posture of a given country. We will also be able to use various cybersecurity frameworks which are both locally and international. Locally, we have agencies like the electronic government agents which have got their framework which governs various government institutions in producing enterprise security architecture in the government system. We'll get a chance to visit that framework which is available in their website. But also we'll visit other frameworks, international frameworks like NIST, COBIT, and CIC. These are also other frameworks which are well known and very famous at international level. But more important, you should be able to design ICT security policies, something which I found to be a big problem in most of institutions operating in our cyberspace, in Tanzania. So at the end of the day, you should be able to design a professional ICT security policy. When we say security controls, we mean all the countermeasures which are being taken in order to minimize security risk to information or computer systems, and in fact they protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. I hope you do remember the CIA trials. Now, information controls are very important. I will take you through slowly, but you should make sure you understand the concepts very well because they are very much applicable to the industry of cyber security and information security at large. Now, how do we classify the information security controls? We classify them according to two categories, according to their characteristics and according to the breach stage or stage of the breach which they protect. According to characteristics, information controls can either be physical, procedural, technical, or legal. Physical are like fences. You find some buildings or some offices have got fences. Some also go far by putting electric fences and CCTV cameras, things like that. they have doors. And some of the doors are access controls, they have logical access controls, etc., etc. Procedural or administrative are things like incident response, management oversight, and security awareness trainings. Training the user is very important to the field of information security, because cybersecurity vulnerabilities or information security weaknesses do exist day to day. Users have to be trained on the newly emerging security threats. Training them will make sure that your information system won't easily be compromised via users, and users have been proved or found to be the weakest links when it comes to information security. But also controls can be classified according to the breach stage or stage of the breach. For example, they can be preventive. Preventive controls are those which try to protect information security before a weakness or a vulnerability is exploited. These are called preventive. You can have something like an antivirus or anti-malware or anti-spyware application installed in your computer system, and once a threat, or that means a malware or a spy application, tries to intrude your device, the anti-spyware or anti-malware will prevent it from entering your computer. That is a preventive control. But they can be detective. Something like intrusion detection system. They detect a vulnerability, or they detect an incident. These are detective control, and the others are corrective. Once if you have bad luck and a vulnerability have occurred, then corrective controls will try to rectify the situation. Now these are the classification of information security control, of which you need to understand them, and I advise you to further read them in the reading list I've provided, and some of the sources are available online as well. And don't hesitate to ask in case you come across any difficulties. Some of organizations can implement more than one control. They have a number of controls in order to protect the information system. This is normal. If an organization or an institution is large enough, it cannot be governed by one type or one kind of control. They can have various controls, and these controls can be interconnected together. They can operate together. They make something called systems of controls. Systems of controls are what actually we call frameworks or standards, and the frameworks can enable an organization to manage security controls across different types of assets with consistency. We have a number of frameworks. I've pointed out three which are very, very famous, and at the end of this presentation or this course, you'll be able to know them and where to get them, and possibly how to use them. But I suggest to you to read them further so that you get more knowledge. We have the NIST, which was developed by the Americans, the American National Institute of Science and Technology. We have COBIT, which was developed by ICT, and we have Center for Internet Security Critical Control. These three are very famous and quite useful, and you will come across them time to time. But especially the NIST one, which, as I said, was developed by the American National Institute of Standards and Technology, is quite useful, especially when it comes to assessment of cyber security. So we get time and we get to understand them at least briefly. And for those of you who wish to go further, I've presented to you in the coming slides where you can get them and how to use them, and you will see how robust they are. Okay. Controls according to characteristics. I will not go them all, but I will leave some of them for your own readings, especially the physical controls one, which are straightforward. They are normally concerned with the physical protection of information assets. So in the reading list I've provided, you can find details about them, and some of the details are available online. Let's see the authentication control. Authentication control actually tries to confirm the user's identity. As we know, before a user access any information system, being online or in a network environment, has to be identified. We provide username and password. Username and password actually are authentication controls. They have to authenticate you. And the authentication has expanded these days, not only providing username and password. Some systems require you to input your biometrics, things like fingerprints, eyeball, and voice in some cases. But also, you can be asked for two-factor authentication, that you put your username and password, then a code is being sent to your other device. It can be a mobile phone, or it can be any other device which has been configured, and put that code, you supply it together with alongside with your password in order to be authenticated. And the two-factor authentication is also expanded not only to engage access code, but sometimes we have something called two-factor authentication apps. Two-factor authentication apps was invented in order to increase security, because it has been found that GSM systems are very much weak, such that it is possible and easier for bad guys to hack them, and they can get SMSs. Now, if we rely on sending code to GSM system, then hackers who have got access to a password can be authenticated to your system as if it is you who has logged in. So these technologies are being expanded or upgraded in time. But the bottom line is authentication controls authenticates or confirms the identity of someone who tries to access information system. This is authentication control. Okay. Another one is encryption control. Encryption, it is not new to you. I remember in my previous slides, we discussed more about it, where we used mail to secure our email communications, to secure files. Encryption actually, it controls information which is being exchanged. It makes sure that the information being exchanged is secure, even if a hacker gets the information but he cannot understand its content. Encryption controls or provides confidentiality of the information. It enhances privacy of our communication. This is a control which is again very, very important, and you will find it throughout your lifetime of cyber security. Even websites which we use these days have got something like we call HTTPS. The S side actually is encryption. It is encryption. It makes sure that communication traffic between the sender and the receiver is encrypted as well. So encryption is one of the most used controls in cyber or information security. As we practice with MyVerop, make sure to continue with that habit of communicating securely via email or via mobile phone. Mobile phone has got these days most of the services we use, like WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, etc., have got thing we call end-to-end encryption, which provides encryption of the content we do exchange. So encryption will be used time to time, and we will come across it in our lifetime of cyber security. The importance of encryption control, as I said, it protects transactions we do. If you are used to performing online financial transactions, encryption comes into place. It makes sure that the communication traffic from our devices to our service providers is safe. Encryption also tries to minimize the risk of our information, even if they get the phone in wrong hands, but the bad guys cannot read the contents of it. All those are the advantages of encryption as a control to information security. Number 3 is the logical access control. They restrict or they control access of who can enter an area or a room in a building. I am sure you have visited some of the offices where you find you cannot enter in unless you provide a certain PIN code or you have an access card. With our access control, it is a technology which guarantees information security by controlling access to restricted area. This is another technology. We have firewalls. Firewalls again are control solution to information security. A firewall is a network security device, a network security device that monitors and filters incoming and outgoing traffic. What the firewall does, it filters communication traffic from the internet to local networks. It tries to make sure that the traffics which are going through local networks are safe. They cannot bring harm to our local network. That is the primary function of a firewall, and also tries to protect information coming from local network to the internet, to see that if they are allowed to go out of the network. That is the primary function of the firewall. But the drawback of it cannot monitor abnormal, or if there are threats circulating within local networks, because they are not reaching the firewall, they could be communicated within. Now the firewall can do nothing about it. We'll discuss later when we are designing security architecture of system. There are various concepts or philosophies which governs us in the design of those systems. But firewall is one of the control solution. Okay. Now we spend more time in discussing about policy, regulations, and guidelines. I will spend time discussing to you about the ICT security policy. It's another control to the security of information system. But before we continue with this one, let's have a short break, and then we will continue with this discussion. Try to brainstorm and digest anything we have discussed. If you have any question, please note them down, and then we discuss them as we continue with our discussion.